afternoon. Woo! All right.
Good afternoon.
Good job, bud. This is Mason. He's the incident commander. Welcome to the hashtag Hernando Prepares Hurricane and Safety Expo. I'm Erin Thomas. I'm your emergency management director. We are so thrilled to see all of your faces here today. We've got some special friends in the house with us and want to get us started with some welcoming comments. So y'all could bear with us just for a second. Say hi. All right. Fire Chief Paul Hasenmeyer is going to kick us off with opening remarks.
All right, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Emergency Management's done a great job putting this whole expo together. I think there's been quite a few people through. So I'm going to be short and sweet, but thanks to the emergency management staff for making this happen and for all of you and the meteorologists and folks here to talk about weather. And hopefully they talk about when the rain's going to come, because we have a burn ban in Hernando County like most of the Tampa Bay region, but we need rain. So come up with rain somehow. Not too much so the river floods, right, Chris? But enough to stop all the fire. So thanks for being here.
Thanks, boss. I have the best boss on the planet. Isn't he great? Next up, we're going to hear from Miss Lisa Hendrickson, City Manager for the City of Brooksville. Can I just tell y'all how excited that we are to be in the city this year?
Oh, can we hear a woo woo for the city of Brooksville? Hi, everyone. I am Lisa Hendrickson, City Manager for the city of Brooksville, and I want to thank you all for being here today. It is truly an honor that this year's expo is being held in the city of Brooksville. So we wanted to show up loud and proud. We have a great team behind us here from the city of Brooksville who've been here all morning hosting. I also want to recognize and thank our first responders who are here with us, our county departments, our emergency management teams, the vendors, and all of our community departments who made this event possible today. So today's Hurricane Expo is really about one thing. It's about making sure that our community is prepared when the next storm arrives. Living in Florida, we know hurricanes are not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Being prepared makes a real difference in protecting the lives and the homes of our residents and our families. So today, I hope that all the attendees had the opportunity to speak with the experts that have come here today to gather information and to make a plan for your family. As a city, we are committed to preparedness, we're committed to coordination, and keeping our residents informed and safe throughout the hurricane season. So far this quarter, we have, in preparation, trimmed over 110 trees. We've been clearing storm drains. We are cleaning out drainage retention areas. We have continual debris pickup. And then also our public information officer, Miss Isabella, who is here front and center, she has been gearing up for community updates. But personal responsibility starts with all of us at home. It is knowing where our evacuation zones are, our routes. It's having supplies ready. It's staying connected to the official updates that Hernando County and the city of Brooksville push out to you as residents. And it's events like this that show the strength of Brooksville, our neighbors, our community agencies, and the organization, and how all of us truly do work together. I want to thank you all for being here and taking an active role in keeping our community safe. Together, we can certainly face whatever this hurricane season brings to us. Thank you for being here this morning.
Y'all, so grateful for the partnership with the city of Brooksville, and I can tell you, in all honesty, after doing this for 10 years, we've never seen this much engagement from our city partners, and we're so grateful. And I'm gonna ask my new friends who are hanging out in the back to give me a wave. City friends, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. And last but most certainly not least, I'd like to ask Commissioner Ryan Amsler to join me on the stage for our last set of opening comments.
Thank you, Erin. How's everyone doing today? It's a beautiful day out there. Thank you, Erin, for asking me to stop by. It's a tough act to follow the fire chief and Lisa, the city manager of Brooksville, both incredible people, super knowledgeable about storm seasons and infrastructure and equipment and planning. If there's one thing, though, Hernando County cares extremely about is the public safety. And we are happy to see such a great turnout here today. We're happy to see all of the partnerships and everyone here. And of course, the staff. The staff works tirelessly at the county and the city to make sure that we're as safe as possible. We saw that the last couple of years with all of the flooding, the hurricanes, the constant fires that we're going through currently in the drought and the burn ban. And we couldn't be luckier to have some of the staff that we do have protecting us and seeing us forward. We're super excited about our weather panel today that's going to present some, hopefully some predictions maybe, I don't know. Maybe not, I don't know. But hopefully they'll give us some insights and some things to look for and prepare for and stay prepared and keep Hernando safe and keep Hernando strong. Thank you all for being here so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you. All right, let's get this party started because I know we could not be more excited. All right. So real quick, while my boss is in the room, countywide burn ban includes the city of Brooksville. Please exercise some common sense. Don't light stuff in your driveway. Please and thank you. All right, so let's move on to our weather nerd friends. This is my favorite part. I'm going to take the opportunity to let them all introduce themselves. I believe all of your microphones should be on and working. While I'm thinking about it, I have to give a huge shout out to our information technology team who's hiding in the corner for making us look so professional and so legit, and we're so grateful. Thank you. Let's start with Jen. Am I going to have to take that thing from you, Mike? Okay. Y'all want to brag on Mike for a second? Mike, I went back and checked. This is the 5th consecutive year that you've served on our meteorology panel at the Hernando Prepares Hurricane and Safety Expo. It's got to be some kind of record. We might could take up a collection. I think we could pass the hat. Right. No, we decided to take a little bit of a new approach this year and make things a little more all-inclusive. So we have our new friend, Mike Boylan. Give it up for him. We're so excited to have him. And Jim, I know this is your first time with us. Hope we won't scare you away. Thank you for being here with us. The rest of you, I know you're cool because we're old friends, right? So let's get started with some cool questions, and then we're going to take some questions from the audience. Hi. All right.
Forecast-wise, I would say that it is that the forecast cone that you see literally everywhere anytime there's any kind of threat of a tropical system in your area is all-encompassing, and that's the only place that any of the impacts are going to occur. Couldn't be further from the truth. The cone is only representative of where the forecast center part of the storm is expected to be 2/3 of the time. It's just a measure of error and has absolutely nothing to do with where the impacts are going to fall. Our new cone that is operational this year and has been experimental the past couple of years highlights the wind threat by showing where the hurricane and tropical storm watches and warnings are located, and it covers over the cone to really put that front and center. And so hopefully that's helping to mitigate some of that misconception. But it's really important that you're actually paying attention to the watches and warnings that are in place, both the tropical storm and hurricane watches and warnings, but also the storm surge watch warnings, the flooding warnings that are out, eventually the tornado warnings, all of the various elements that are part of a hurricane. The warnings tell you what to prepare for. The cone means nothing as far as impacts. And so that would be my biggest one.
I love all of that. Thank you so much for explaining in a way that we can understand. Want you to know that emergency management is in constant contact with the National Weather Service pretty much on a daily basis, but particularly with an impending storm or any other kind of hazard that we may be facing. I love being able to just, hey girl, can you explain this to me in a way that I can understand so that I can explain it to all of you? Because all of this stuff is nuanced and complicated, and when seconds and minutes matter, that's when we want to make sure that our message is clear and concise and people can understand. So thank you so much for your partnership in that regard. Next, my friend Chris, who is a really rad dude. How far in advance can we realistically predict hurricane intensity versus track? And why is intensity harder?
Now
I'd
that's
like to pass this question to somebody else, given that you are a hydrology person. I fully support that.
well. First of all, I just want to go back real quick to the first question, and just one of the things that I think that's really important is, we all get our source of information from various places, and this is something that we stress internally within the Water Management District. When I'm briefing our Emergency Operations Center, the forecast is the official forecast from the National Hurricane Center. We don't deviate from that forecast. What we do is we take that information, and of course we're part of the larger conversation as that forecast is being created. But once that forecast comes out, the last thing we want to do is send mixed signals, both internally within our own organization and then also to our stakeholders and the general public. So that's something that I'm often reminding folks is that, what my job is to really tailor that forecast to specific impacts that we at the Water Management District or television media or you guys as the public can then understand what those potential impacts are and be prepared for them. So that was number one. So number two, yeah, I could talk all day about this, but I'm not. So, this is an interesting thing, and Jen, you correct me, if I deviate from this, but back a few years ago, probably maybe, even a decade ago, there was always better agreement in track forecasting than it was intensity. And intensity, for many reasons, is a bit difficult to forecast accurately. Fortunately, with our computing power having expanded over the last several years, what I've noticed anyway from my perspective is that the uncertainty associated with intensity has really gone down, almost to the point where again, my opinion, the uncertainty associated with the track and the intensity are almost the same now. So the National Hurricane Center, NOAA, the National Weather Service at large, has done a phenomenal job of really keying in those models and reducing that uncertainty. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. You guys want? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chris. Just want to give mad props to the Southwest Florida Water Management District. When I tell you that they are one of our best Emergency Operations Center partners, it's no joke. Chris specifically comes to staff when we activate
Thank you.
What local conditions in our region make storms strengthen or weaken before landfall?
Okay, I'm going to be like them, and I'm going to go back to the first one first, because I think that's a really important thing that we always are working to make sure that people understand the misconceptions, because there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of people that are moving to the state that have never been through a hurricane or any type of tropical event, and so much of the time they get their information from their neighbors and their friends and social media, and so we are always trying to combat the misinformation. And I think one of the things that will happen is when a new resident comes to an area and moves to the Florida, and they're talking with their new neighbors and they're talking to their friends that they've met in the area, and they want to know, hey, what do we do during a tropical storm or a hurricane? And so often, what do you hear? I've lived here for 40 years, and we have never had a problem. I've lived here for 40 years. It's never flooded here. Hurricanes always turn. Hurricanes always turn. Don't worry about it. And then what happens? We get Helene. We get Milton. We get Debbie. We get these storms that are suddenly doing things that people said never happened here. I mean, we had Helene a couple of years ago. Remember, it didn't even make landfall in Tampa in Pinellas County, and the type of flooding that they saw there, that all these people that lived along those barrier islands and those coastlines said never happens here. These things don't happen here. Don't worry. The whole thing in Tampa, Indian burial mounds, and we're safe in these areas. So that misconception is believing that since these things haven't happened in the past that you can remember, that they won't happen. What we're always trying to remember is what we're forecasting, and what you're being warned about is the potential of what could happen. And any of these things can happen, and they eventually will happen. Will they happen this next storm? We don't know. But you have to always prepare for the possibility of what could happen, not ever getting lulled into that idea that these things haven't happened for 40 years, so we're somehow safe in these areas, and that I live in a safe area of Florida. There isn't a safe area of Florida. You have different dangers depending on where you live in the county and in the state. So if you're 30 miles inland, sure, you're not worrying about coastal flooding, but that doesn't mean you're not worried about flooding. You can have other types of flooding. So going to the question we're talking about here, with storms strengthening or weakening, the Gulf is probably our biggest asset to the area, but it's also a very dangerous thing, because we have basically this perfect bathtub of some of the warmest water when we get into July and August and September, and we talk about these water temperatures 91, 92, 93 degrees, which is wonderful for tourists and for our economy. People love to come down and enjoy our beaches and our coastline and our weather, but when you have water that is that warm, that allows these storms to intensify very rapidly. And we saw that with Milton. I remember we were talking about this essentially little disturbance in the Bay of Campeche, and within a matter of, I think about 18 hours, we went from talking about a possible tropical storm heading our way to suddenly we had a major hurricane heading our way. And we're seeing this more and more often with these rapidly intensifying storms. And you're going to see that very easily in the Gulf, just because we have such warm water in there. And when you get these conditions of very warm water, you get just the right conditions, you're going to see these rapidly intensifying storms. And then we also have these very shallow shelves leading up to the state. So you can really pile up a lot of water, and we're really susceptible here on the west side of Florida to storm surge. And so if you're living right along the coastline, you can see these storm surge, and we saw perfect examples of this with Debbie and with Helene especially, of how quickly that angle of the way the storm is coming up along the coastline, how quickly that storm surge can increase And it's also very important to remember, we talk about this a lot, every storm has its unique characteristics. Some storms are really big with the storm surge. Some storms are going to be really big with tornadoes. And so you always have to remember there's no one size fits all with a storm. We're always trying to pick out and inform you about what the biggest threats of that particular storm are going to be.
Thank you,
Sure.
Jen. I want to capitalize on something that you mentioned just a moment ago about the temperature of the Gulf right now. Was recently at a meeting with my friend Jen, the integrated warning team meeting, and it's the world's weirdest, dorky meeting of emergency managers and meteorologists and media personalities, and we get together and we talk about all the things, right? And Jen was telling us that the temperature of the Gulf on average right now is running about 3 to 7 degrees above the climatological average. What do you think that's going to mean for us in terms of possibly rapidly intensifying storms? Sorry, that could be rhetorical.
Well, I mean, we talk about how warm those waters are, and when you get these perfect conditions, and we find that very often when you get late in the summer, that's where you've warmed those waters about as warm as they're possibly going to get when you get into August and September. That's why it is the peak of the season. There's not some magical thing about it. It's because you've now warmed these waters through the entire summer. Your winds have really lightened up in the atmosphere, and so you're really basically creating the perfect scenario to allow for a tropical system to not only form, but to have the perfect atmosphere to intensify very rapidly. And then you move this over some of the warmest waters when we talk about the Caribbean and the Atlantic. You move this into the Gulf, and you're moving over some of the warmest, most perfect ideal conditions. And that's where we've got this beautiful resource. We've got a very dangerous thing that is sitting right next to us as well.
I love that. A beautiful confluence of events that causes bad days for a lot of people. Thank you, my friend. Mike, I'm going to switch it up on you a little bit and ask you a deep thought question. So I've been hearing things that say, like, this is going to be a super El Nino year. Is that a real thing?
Yes. It looks like it will be a super El Nino, which is warmer than normal water in the Pacific off the coast of South America. And when we have a super El Nino, all the models are saying it, so it's going to happen. It's already started. Probably is going to peak towards the fall, and it will change the climate around the world, and it will change our climate. Some ways it's going to be good, and some ways it's going to be bad. One way it might be good is there might be more wind shear in the Atlantic, and there might be fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic, so it could rip them apart. The bad part is that there might be more severe weather next winter. We'll have maybe more squall lines come through with tornado threats and things. But the good part is we're probably going to get a lot of rain. And so when we do this next year at this time, we might be talking about all the rain that we've had, and there's no more drought, and we've had a very wet winter. But that's the general overview. But we've seen El Ninos that haven't done that too. And we've seen El Ninos where the rain was disappointing. We've seen El Ninos where there's still hurricanes and things like that. So you still have to take it day by day and watch the weather through hurricane season. But yeah, this is going to be a strong to super El Nino coming up, and probably the strongest since 97, 98. And if you were here then, some of us were, we had a very quiet hurricane season, but in 97 there was a hurricane in the Gulf that caused the heaviest rainfall ever recorded in the state of Alabama, and that was in early August. So there was a hurricane in the Gulf, and then the season just went flat because El Nino was coming on. But then we had severe weather. We had severe weather in October of 97, and we had severe weather all the way until February, March of 98. We had we had the big Kissimmee tornado outbreak, which is Florida's deadliest. We had tremendous amounts of rain. Tampa had 14 inches of rain in December 1997, and a tremendous amount of flooding. So that's what happened in 97, 98. Doesn't mean it's going to happen again, because again, we've seen some El Ninos since then, and we thought, oh no, here we go again, and it didn't happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely, please.
Just so for everybody out in the audience, show of hands, who was here in 97, 98? Okay, so y'all know exactly what Mike's talking about. I was here as well, and it was pretty epic flooding for sure. So, but my question, Mike, kind of to you is, with respect to El Nino, you know, we always talk about El Nino happening, those El Nino events that do occur in the wintertime, like you mentioned, like we typically will see a lot more rainfall most of the time. But what happens with rainfall when your El Nino peaks in the summertime? Do we see the same correlation with rainfall?
I don't think so. The things that we've seen, it doesn't really change our summer that much. So it may towards the end of the summer, but summer rainy season is usually pretty, it usually takes to the fall or winter to kick it in.
I think it's so interesting. So we're talking about 1997 and this epic flooding, right? And then, if I remember correctly, 1998 we saw the inverse of that, where massive drought and wildfires all over the place. And I don't know if there's wildfires on the brain.
Yeah, 2000, 2001 was one of the most severe droughts on record.
Yeah, it's all connected, isn't it? Okay. It's a good opportunity to remind everybody to register for Alert Hernando. Who's registering for Alert Hernando? Good answer. If you're not, shame on you. You can go to alerthernando.org or call emergency management at 352-754-4083. Register to your heart's content for whatever hazard tickles your fancy, and you can set quiet periods, you can get a text message, a phone call, an email, you can get all three at the same time. Highly recommend, particularly for wildfires, tornadoes, things where you need to take action very quickly. Some hazards you can turn on and off. Sorry, we're not giving you a choice with tornado warnings. Far too important. Okay? Please and thank you.
The last time I saw Mike, where were we? On a cruise. We were on a cruise ship.
You guys went on a cruise together and didn't invite us?
It was an accident.
And now we're both taking one in June. So we're not afraid of
You
hurricanes
guys,
in
it's
June.
hurricane season. Again, poor kids. Mike, we're so excited to have you here. Thank you so much. Talk to me a little bit about flooding and storm surge, if you don't mind, sir. What makes storm surge so incredibly dangerous compared to wind? And why do people underestimate it, you think, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think we've all learned through the years storm surge and evacuations. I remember Irma, you know, the whole state evacuated. I think the state now really encourages, you know, you evacuate tens of miles, not hundreds of miles, because the storm surge is the deadliest part of a storm. You know, 80 to 90% of all hurricane deaths are water related. Now that's inland flooding also, but storm surge is the primary reason, you know, you want to get out of Dodge. And, you know, I seen it firsthand. I was in Keaton Beach during Helene, and of course our area was impacted from Helene. And, you know, listening to so many people, couldn't understand a storm that was 100 miles off our coast could do what it did. And, I think a lot of folks were just misbelief that that was even going to happen. And when the storm passed, you know, a lot of people were celebrating it passing to our north, and then that's when the surge came in. And that's what kind of gets everybody is it comes in fast, you know, and you get stranded. And, I remember talking about Ian and, you know, the comparisons to Katrina with having an axe in your attic. You know, they do that in Louisiana. Well, now it's part of the National Weather Service surge print that I saw, having an axe in your attic, because that's where people escaped. And you don't believe it. You hear it, you think it's hype, and you're like, you're just hyping it. Well, it happened. It happened in Fort Myers. It happened down there. And, you know, people have nowhere to go but up. And it comes so fast. And it's just so hard to describe the damage, how this swoops in and takes everything out. And when it leaves, it doesn't even look like it happened. You still got green grass on the ground. So it's the scariest part of the storm. You know, the wind is fine. I mean, it's not fine, but the wind is manageable. It's the water that you just underestimate. I don't think people take it serious enough. You know, and back to some of these great points about every storm's different, like Jim said, and you know, you got to hit that reset button every year. A lot of people died during Charlie. That's Ian. You know, it's a Cat 4. We survived. You know, totally different animal. Every storm's different. You know, and I talked to a lady. We were at Chili's one night, my wife and I, and the lady stayed for Helene. flooded out in Oldsmar. And I asked her, why didn't you evacuate? She said, well, we had surge warnings for, Charlie, we had surge warnings for Ian, we had surge warnings for Idalia. We didn't get any surge. So in her mind, she didn't understand enough about the weather, and no fault to her. Those storms turned, but we're still under a storm surge warning. And you can't, 5 miles is make or break. I mean, Milton went to our south, and we had water out of the bay again, but 5 miles south of the Skyway, completely destroyed, Minnesota Key and stuff. So you got to take into account that these little wiggles and wobbles, it's no fault of any, NWS forecasts or Met. I mean, you have to prepare for the worst. And Helene didn't turn, and this lady, they were under 7 feet of water and on their countertops because, they didn't believe that they were going to get the surge. So, bunch of points here. I don't know if I went off in circles like a hurricane.
No, I want to continue this conversation. Woo. I might have done some. Okay, does that sound better? Okay. Thank you, Mike. So many points that you made I really want to emphasize on, but most importantly was evacuation orders. Evacuation orders are not something to take lightly, and I really want to thank you for capitalizing on that point. Here in Hernando and throughout the state of Florida, we take these decisions very seriously. So we have an executive policy group that comes together anytime we have an impending threat to evaluate the latest and greatest information and make decisions on emergency protective measures accordingly, namely evacuation orders. I'm going to be really honest with you right now. You ready? I don't like issuing evacuation orders. I would rather not. It means a lot of bad things are really happening at the same time. I don't want to, but I'm going to, and you need to pay attention because they're very important and it can save your life. So just know that those decisions are not made in a vacuum. We have the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners who snuck in on me. Hi, Jerry. And the sheriff, and the county administrator, and the public safety director, and the mayor of the city of Brooksville, and the superintendent of schools, and the health officer for the health department. All of these key leaders are coming together to evaluate the information and make decisions accordingly to keep you safe, to keep your family safe. So it's no joke. So please take that seriously. With our last couple of minutes, because I think we can probably geek out on this stuff all day, I want to take your questions. So who's got the mic? Miss Mindy. Hey Chris, could I get Mindy to check your microphone real quick? I want to make sure we can hear your question. It's on? It's red? Should be green, I think. Sorry, stand by.
Check, check. My name's Chris. I'm newly here from Indiana. Been here about 2 weeks. And I guess my question would be, for any of the professionals here, would be, what would be at the top of your priority list for disaster preparedness?
Thank you so much for that question. First of all, welcome to Hernando County and the city of Brooksville. I'm glad to have you. First things first, register for Alert Hernando. And then, if you notice, who's wearing a Hernando Prepares t-shirt? Okay, all right. So if you notice, the people in the lime green t-shirts have cool messaging on the back that say, make a plan, build a kit, stay informed, and get involved. And capitalizing on opportunities like we're doing here today is a great way to get started. I hope you had the chance to visit all the preparedness vendors in the gym and pick up all of the information. But really, truly, register for Alert Hernando. That's going to be the quickest, easiest way to get the message as far as emergency notifications go. And then making your plan, building your kit, and emergency management staff wave. The people who are waving at you are very friendly and a little dorky, but be more than happy to talk to you about what needs to go in your kit, what kind of plans you need to make, knowing your home, knowing your zone. Do you live in a site-built home or a mobile home? Do you live near the coast? Do you live near the river? Do you live in the city? There's a lot to unpack there. So grab one of us and let's talk about it. All right.
I just want to, if I can add on to that real quick, just kind of piggybacking off of that, it's so much of it is about the plan, and it doesn't have to be stressful or difficult to do the plan, but it's important to do it now before you get into the hurricane season, because when when they have issued warnings, now everybody has lost their mind and everybody's going to the store. So now it's too late to actually get the supplies that you need. You're now in this rush, and that's where it becomes stressful. So, my family, what we do when we get to the beginning of the hurricane season, we stack up on the water. We go ahead and we get all the water. We get those supplies. And then you start to just somewhat rotate through those supplies. So you keep fresh supplies. As I use a little bit of the water, I'll add some water and so forth. And that's something that you just somewhat have to get in the habit of doing. And I think we almost all had a little practice of doing that with COVID, where everybody was suddenly hoarding everything. Well, it is somewhat of that mentality a little bit, that you have to basically kind of keep a lot of these supplies on hand. So if you just kind of go back and start thinking about some of the things that we did during that's actually going to help you to know, hey, I need to hold on to some of these things, and it's really not that hard to do, and it's going to really lower your stress level a lot when an actual storm is coming. If you already have everything that you need, your only stress at that point is you're going to be like, hey, wait a second, what have I forgotten? Because everybody else is panicked, so I must have forgotten something. And if you've done your plan over the past several years, you're going to start to realize, no, I've got everything in place. It's everybody else hasn't done what they're supposed to do.
All right, I have one too. Your baseline, if you just moved here, stay informed, have the weather a couple times a day, whether it's a social media site that you trust, or a TV station that you trust, or the National Weather Service. Don't be surprised. And if you're going through hurricane season, just kind of, if it's not something to worry about, we're not going to be talking about it. So if it's something that you need to pay attention to, you'll hear about it. And that way, you're not going somewhere on Friday, and then all of a sudden on Sunday morning, you're like, oh no, this is already almost August. So that's a good baseline.
I'll tell you a good one. People like me, trusted sources. Okay, I can't stress enough about having a local meteorologist that you trust on TV when it comes down to when it's going to hit the fan. There's so many people online, spreading the worst case scenarios. You don't know who to believe sometimes. Unfortunately, the algorithms on these social media sites are going to kick out the one that's got the most likes and clicks, and that unfortunately is usually somebody that's sharing the worst GFS model, and everybody believes it. It's got to be true. It's on the internet, and it's tough. So it really comes down to who you trust when you need it the most. And I'm just I make my name on social media, but I can see why people hate me, because you got reputable vets trying to put out useful information, but then you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there sharing the worst case scenario, getting these clicks and likes, and you don't know who to believe. But that's the only thing you're going to see on TikTok is that worst case scenario. So just believe it in your local Mets, and National Weather Service Tampa is amazing. I like to share long range stuff, and that's not for everybody. But when it comes down to it, have your trusted source, and they'll make you feel good. The information that you need.
I just want to add one more thing, and Mike, I appreciate that. I couldn't agree more with what you said. But one last thing just to consider is know your environment, know your location and where you are. So this is 21 years now. I've been Navy Reserve meteorology officer, and we talk about situational awareness in the Navy and how we keep the fleet safe from weather, ocean, all sorts of hazards. You know your home better than anybody. and you know those dangers that you have. If you live in a flood zone, then you got to pay attention to surge. If you live near a river or on a lake, you got to pay attention to freshwater flooding. Wind is a hazard. So all these hazards are very unique and specific to your area. So since you're new, that would be my best advice, is really have that situational awareness of your location and what are your vulnerabilities, and then plan accordingly. Because it can get very overwhelming if you start listening to all the different levels of advice, some good, some bad, but you may not need to worry about surge if you're not in a flood zone, in a storm surge flood zone, but you may if you're in a lake or in a river, and that's a whole different type of flooding situation than what you would experience if you were on the coast.
Thank you, Chris. I know my friends are going to get mad at me here in a second, but I think this is really important because we're starting to see some additional folks trickle in. Can you, real quick, 60-second recap? What the heck is the difference between an evacuation zone and a flood zone, 100-year, 500-year? Can you give us the Cliff Notes version? Yes, all in 60 seconds. Ready, go. You're on TV. Oh, you want me to answer that one? Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. So there's a lot to unpack there, Aaron. So I appreciate that. Yeah, I know. I have. I'm sorry. So 100-year floods. That's the thing that I caught my attention, was this idea of a 100-year flood event. That's a kind of a nuanced thing to think about, because what you're really talking about is probability. So you're talking about the chance of a flooding event happening at a certain level over so many years. So a 100-year flood means that flood is something that is likely to occur, and I forget what the exact percentage is, 1%. So that is a 1% chance that flood will happen over 100 years. That does not mean that if you have experienced a flood event like that you're good for the next 100 years. It could happen again the same year. Just depends on the odds. But it gives you an idea of the severity and the likelihood of that severity. So it's pretty low in terms of probability, but it could happen. So it's very nuanced. I don't know if that answers the question, but
it's great, and I'm sorry for putting you on the spot like that. I just like listening to you talk. But there's a ton of people who can help you figure out if you live in an evacuation zone, if you live in a flood zone. What the heck do the letters mean for each flood zone? There's so much to unpack. So you contact emergency management. You can contact our floodplain office over in development services. You can contact the property appraiser's office. You can contact the National Weather Service. You can probably call a handful of other people that I can't think of right now. So reach out. Do your best to educate yourself in that regard, because it helps us to be able to convey the message all that much more effectively.
and I'll take an opportunity to give you a shout out, because you guys are awesome. And for those of you who are new or not to the area, your emergency managers are your one-stop shop. I mean, Erin lives this every day. Her staff lives this every day. You have a question about evacuation zones and what they mean and what to do, there's the person to talk to, and her group in Hernando County, for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Along those lines, if y'all don't mind, we're going to give away a generator here in a second, I promise. Chairman Campbell. He's just my friend Jerry, so it's really weird to call him Chairman Campbell, but come join me on the stage. I got to brag on my team for a second. So, emergency managers, wave. Yes. Y'all, these are the hardest working emergency managers in the game, 100%. Angel Turner. Jeremy Odell. Kyle DeBlair. And Mindy Rivera. And just because I'm so proud, I'm going to go mama bear on you for just a second. 4 out of your 5 emergency management team are certified Florida professional emergency managers as of just a couple months ago. And that is not to throw shade at Mindy. Mindy's already working on it. She's got her task book going. So I want to give my friend Jerry a for a minute because I know that you were probably distracted in the gym when you were coming over here. So let me help you with this. Okay, that'll work.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad to see this room full of people that are looking to get informed and educated and know where to go and know what to do when there's an emergency. How many of you guys have been in Hernando County for at least 5 years? Okay, so you've experienced a lot already, and so you know what we need to be looking for. You know what the hazards are, and I hope you saw today that we have a team of people ready to inform you, ready to be there at a moment's notice. I've had the privilege and maybe unfortunate privilege sometimes of being in that in those emergency situations and being in our emergency headquarters and seeing all the great men and women that are there to serve you, the residents of Hernando County. So I want to just reiterate one thing, and that's the importance of signing up for Alert Hernando. So alerthernando.org. Please sign up. You can choose how you want to be communicated with, whether that's email, whether that's cell phone, whether that's a text or a phone call to a home line. Please do that. That's going to help us get information to the most people. And then please heed the warnings. So again, we're not looking to inconvenience you in any way. So if we say get out, you need to get out and do that as quickly and safely as possible. And you don't have to go far a lot of times. So just go find the place that you need to go that's high and dry and away from the wind, and then you'll be in good hands. But thank you so much for being here. And I think we're going to pull some raffles here in a moment. And so I wish you all luck. Again, thank you.
All right. As Aaron had mentioned, my name is Jeremy O'Dell. I am the Deputy Director here for Emergency Management. Oh, stop it, come on. So, as Jerry mentioned, we do have some items to raffle off. Our wonderful specialist Angel is over there. She's pulling some of the items out now, and she's going to let me know some of the things we're going to be raffling, because I don't know what order they're in. First raffle item is a family pass for our Brooksville institution, our Hernando County institution, Boyettes Road. So this first raffle is going to be for a family pack for Boyettes Road. And the winner of that ticket, get your tickets out, ladies and gentlemen, that number is 4701362. Over there we go. All right. Mindy's coming over. Thank you, Mindy. Angel, what's up next? The next thing we have up for raffle is 4 tickets for MOSI, the Museum of Science and I forgot what the I was. Industry? Thank you. Sorry, MOSI. Acronyms are hard for me. So there's 4 tickets for MOSI. Ticket number 6. Ooh, too loud. 6167610. And I'm going to say it again because I repeated the first number. 6167610. Where we got them? Right there. All right, 4 tickets for Mosey. Ooh, I want this one. We have 4 tickets for the Florida Aquarium. What do we got? Chairman? He's picking a good one. I know he is. Are we ready? 4 tickets for the Florida Aquarium. 4701373. There we go. Oh, for those that wanted those 4 tickets to Mosey, we have 4 more. Thank you, Mosey. And I will get your acronym correct next time, I promise. 6167610. 7. 6, 1, 6, 7, 6, 2, 7. Going once, going twice. Chairman, let's redraw. You're an excellent chairman, by the way. I don't know about that, sir.
Jeremy, we got someone.
We do have someone. Apologies. We will. Yeah, we'll throw that back in. I didn't say a single number. Yeah, I'll have to, and that's what I get for pulling all these and putting them in the pocket. You did 4, right? Yeah, there's nothing else in there. Boss, would you confirm that? I'm going to give you all of them at once so far. Oh, and these. No want those. Excellent. What do we got next, Angel? Good. Tack back? Ooh. So we have a goodie bag here. This is a tactical backpack from our vendor that was out there, Civishore. This tactical backpack has some other goodies inside of it, and we'll leave that a mystery. Angel told me, but I think whoever is going to win is going to want it to stay a mystery. So thank you, Civishore, for this donation. This tactical backpack plus goodies inside. 6, 1, 6, 7, 6, 4, 5. 6, 1, 6, 7, 6, 4, 5. Is there anybody on the floor? We got to double check now. All right, I'm going to set this one aside just in case. Yes, sir. All right. 616 72 63. There we go. There you go, Minnie. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right. For those that were like, when are they going to get to the generator? When is the generator at? Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to raffle off the generator. Chairman Campbell, go ahead and spin that around real quick. Shake it up, baby. I like that. Yeah. Now, for the person that wins this, remember that Chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, Jerry Campbell, pulled your ticket. This was his doing. I got it. Are we ready? That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted that. 6, 1, 6, 7, 6, 1, 2. There we go. We got a generator. All right. All right. We've got Kyle over there, our planner. He's got nice strong muscles, man. He's going to help you with that generator. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. We really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, please be safe heading home. Thank you all so much for coming out. We really appreciate it. Let's see you all again next year. EM team, are we going to grab a photo real quick with our meteorologist? Excellent. Thank you all so much.